Okay, waiting for the stream to go online. I just want to see everything's fine. That looks good. Do we have audio? Do we have audio? Do we have audio? Why is stupid YouTube. Okay. There's audio. Good. No, shut up, dumb monitor thing. Right. So, if you haven't watched the previous streams on this, this is the headlight elevator for a 1999 Nissan Serena overnet cargo cheapo van. And we've been fixing up the electric motor inside and renovating the PCB due to just neglect. These don't see a lot of use, so the motors had ceased. So this one's been bathing in oil for one night, and as you might be able to tell, it's turning just fine. Running at 1.7 volts there out of the 12 it's supposed to take, so it really is performing quite well. And we're ready to put this back together. So I've done some off-camera grinding while I've been setting this up. So I've cleaned out the gasket area, I've added a bit of grease to the black gear in here, just the normal stuff you do to make everything a little bit better. So I've just got the final puzzle pieces to put back together. Then we're going to make sure that the motor actually has enough torque to turn the entire mechanism. Then we'll put the motor and gearing back in, and the PCB on top, and you guys are not going to see it work because I don't have a wireless camera to go out and test it in the car. But since the other one worked, which you didn't see either, I'm quite sure this one is going to be fine as well. So where did I put the motor? That's the motor. I'm going to use some isopropyl alcohol to wipe these contacts off, since this has been bathing in oil overnight. It is going to be completely covered in oil, and that's not good for electrical continuity. I've cleaned this up already. I've been blowing a lot of compressed air through it, so it's not completely dripping in oil. It's just got a film all over, which is something we want, since this had obviously corroded before. We're not going to be able to get rid of the water ingress on this, I don't think. Probably want to wipe some of that horrible old grease off as well. Just to be a bit extra nice. It doesn't look very grease-like anymore. Just some green colorant remaining. I'm surprised that they've actually used a metal gear on this motor. That's not plastic. So that's fresh. Right, this goes in like so. And reassembly really is a lot easier than disassembly, so this one goes that way. I want to put some grease on the motor shaft before, just to get as much on there as we can. Keep it greasy so it'll go down easy. Let's just run the motor to turn it and distribute it evenly. That looks properly greased up to me. The chat is saying, bring the car to the bench. I would enjoy having a garage or something like that quite a lot, but alas, I can't afford it. There's some extra grease on that as well. You cannot have too much grease. Oh yeah. Perfect. We already stuck some grease in there, so this ought to just kind of pop in place. click. And that's the axle back in place. So I'm going to put some extra grease on the black cog as well, just for good measure, or rather, just putting it on the axle should distribute it all over the cog. So yeah, we'll just do that. Yeah, grease everywhere. Grease everywhere. That's good. So, running the motor should now make this white, or rather uncoloured piece of plastic move in and out. So let's see if our motor has enough torque to actually do this. I'll give it like 8 volts. We need to take care not to run it too far because the mechanism kind of pops out and it's really annoying to get it back in. Look at that. It's turning. That's working very well. At a mere 8 volts as well. It's a bit heavier to go the other way, so... Oh no, I just had a super low current limit. There we go. An amport to do it. Oh, it's out of frame. Look at that. Absolutely beautiful. I don't think there's anything wrong with the electronics, so I'm quite happy calling this a repair. So I'm just going to run it a few times to get grease on everything that ought to be greasy. That's about as far as we can go. And there's still more water separating out of this. There's so much water in this axle assembly. Oh god, I ran it too far out. Ah, this is going to be a pain getting back in. Is this the right way? No, I don't think so. Oh, thank goodness. It's getting back in nicely. Absolutely beautiful. I still want a bit more, just a tad more grease on that gear over there, just because it looks a bit barren. Just a little. There we go, that ought to be enough. Rightio. So now the fun part comes where we try to remount the PCB, because the PCB is attached with these meltable plastic things which we heated up to get the PCB out without completely destroying them. But I think we might be able to just use the soldering iron to kind of touch them up, make them thin, then put the board in and melt them again. Someone says, I just came in, what's this all about? And these are the headlight elevators for my van. They just make the headlights go up and down depending on a switch inside the cab. So nothing fancy at all. They're just electrical motors which break when you don't use them. That is so underexposed. So I have this set to about 300C. Let's see if we can melt this. Let's get rid of the tin first, actually. Someone says these are out of a Porsche. No, these are out of a Nissan. A Nissan Vanette Cargo from 1999. Is this melting? Kind of. Best glass fibre in this, my poor soldering iron tip. It's going to die. Oh, I hate the feeling of melting glass fibre reinforced plastic. That's not melting actually. Not anywhere near as well as it should, so we'll do like, oh, it was set to 250, well, we'll do 300C. Let's try it again. That's better, that's actually melting. Yeah, that ought to do it. There are slots in the board that it's supposed to fit through, so I'll just try and fold it up so we can just barely fit it through the slots, then we'll melt it back. Some of the material's coming off, which is not good. But I think we'll make do. The other one I managed to reassemble without even using the plastic mount at all. I just used some foam to keep the PCB in place, so I don't think we're gonna be out of luck with this. Some alcohol on the PCB connectors for the motor, and on it goes. Snap, crackle, and pop. Excellent, that's in there. So now we'll just melt this back down. As well as we can. This is not going to mount as well as the original mounts, but it's something. I think it'll stay in place. This one in the corner is definitely the one that's worst for wear. I think that'll be good enough. It's not falling out. Cleaning my poor soldering iron tip. Soldering iron tips are not made for melting plastic at all. They do not like it. It would probably be well served to just have like a bunch of tips dedicated to plastic melting. Someone asks, are you trying to melt it to get the PCB back in place? And the answer is yes, obviously. And they followed up saying perhaps 300C is a bit too much, and that's not the case, since 250 wouldn't melt it. Ugh. Plastic. Plastic everywhere. Okay, I think my tip will survive now. I just want to get rid of all the acid that ends up forming when you melt the plastic. So I think we're done with that. Don't need any more soldering iron. Yeah, this feels pretty okay. Pretty okay. Yeah, I don't think we even need any more extra mounts for this, because this is not going anywhere. Yeah, we're good. We are good. So now the next thing is to just drench this in alcohol and install it. The pins going to the connector are obviously very oxidized. Maybe we can just kind of stir it with a toothpick to get the worst of the oxide to come off. Just to give this slightly better chances of actually making a decent connection. Toothpicks are very, very useful tools. I strongly recommend having a pack in every electronics workshop. Right. Oh yeah, we want the gasket. I've tried cleaning this as much as I can, but it's not a great gasket anymore. It's a bit dated, but it'll do a good enough job. If I had any, I'd want to put a silica gel pack in this. Could probably prolong the lifetime slightly, but liking that, we'll just put a little dab of grease going around the edge of the O-ring, and I'm sure that'll be fine. Just a little something to keep the rain out. Molybdenum sulfide, disulfide grease is a bit needlessly expensive for doing this with, but yeah, I can't be bothered getting out the proper, like, marine grease. I don't know where I put the bottle for that. I need a bit more grease. There we go. You really don't need a lot of grease in an application like this. There we go. That's just a little something to go around to make it a bit happier. I don't quite like how seized this thing is. Like, this is some plastic screwy thing for man. Oh no, actually, it doesn't matter that this is heavy to turn, because this is not turned. This thing is not turned by the electrical motor. This is just for the baseline adjustment, which you do by hand, because this axle slides in and out. It doesn't rotate while the motor runs. So yeah, all we need is a bit of grease on there. We need to grease our axle up so it doesn't get completely stuck on it, and we'll be good. So we'll just put a bunch of grease on there, just a lot. There we go. Tons of grease, and let's refill the alcohol on here just to make sure we have enough, and snap it back together, because this is the final step of assembly. Come on, you are going to fit that axle. You have fit that axle in the past. Okay. Come on. Okay, that's attaching. Snap. Okay. Okay. That ought to be it. This ought to be a working... Oh god, that is so tight. But it should be. This ought to be a working headlight elevator motor. That was a rather quick reassembly. So, yeah, I don't have the pinout really at hand, else we could actually test this. This is just a really simple thing, where you put, one of these pins is ground and the other are combined, VCC and positioning. So you just put ground on one and one of the positions, and it's going to go to a specific place, a specific position. It goes bzzz, click, or rather just bzzz because it doesn't have a relay. Ah, this is so heavy to turn. Jeez. This connector looks pretty fine. It's a bit dirty, so I'm just gonna use some alcohol to clean the gasket up. And beyond that, we're basically done. Someone says end of the video unless he's taking us to the car. I would actually take you outside to the vehicle to test it out, because that's a pretty quick thing to do, but I don't have any kind of wireless camera system, so you're just going to have to take my word for it. The other one we did worked, so I don't think this one's going to be any different, since it had such an obvious issue.